Hey guys, just want to thank you for tuning in today to our podcast and listening. We pray over these sermons that we put on here, and we just believe that they will bring strength and life and encouragement to your daily walk, and that they will build you up in your faith and push you towards Christ. And we pray that today is a day, as you listen, that all those things are accomplished.
Man, I'm excited to be with you guys today. I'm excited to take the stage again and preach the gospel. Thank you all for all of your prayers and text messages and Facebook messages and just checking on me and the family while I was out with surgery on my gallbladder. It meant the world to me. I can't explain to you what it meant to have such a lovely, amazing, beautiful group of people reaching out to me and care and concern. So I thank you for that. I feel better today. The last 2 days have been really good, actually. So I believe God, after our prayer service, has begun to do a work inside of me, and I am so thankful for that. And He is definitely the reason I'm able to stand here today and preach the gospel. And so I'm excited. I'm very thankful to Him for that. If you have your Bibles, you could go ahead and turn with me. We're going to spend some time in Luke chapter 20. I thought I was going to finish up the series a little sooner, but I wanted to stay in the series Follow Me for just one more week. And some of you may leave today, and I want to kind of head this off before we get into it, because when I address the topic I will be addressing today, when I say the word, here in just a minute, some of you may wish that I had already concluded the series 2 weeks ago. But how many knows when God puts something on your heart, you can't run from it? No matter how uncomfortable it may feel, and no matter how uneasy you may think it to be, and how maybe unreceptive people may be to it, you can't allow that to dictate what you do. What God says must be the final and the conclusive word in your life. And so today we do continue in this series, Follow Me, from ordinary to extraordinary, where we are looking at the disciples of Jesus and the men He called. And we will be looking at a man named Simon, his subname, the Zealot. And I want to talk to you on the topic, here we go, everybody brace yourself, grab the seat beside you or with you, politics in church. Ooh, some of y'all are laughing because y'all like, this kid, he may not make it through. He may not make it after he gets done. But here is the reality. Here is the reality. We live in a region where people are passionate about their politics. I mean, I'm talking real passionate. If you don't believe me, just get on Facebook and just scroll sometimes. Just scroll. And you will find good Christian people just having a war and going at it. And so I believe this to be a very needed topic in the church, not because I am today going to stand up here and underneath I'm wearing blue or red. That's not the case. I'm not here to pick sides and choose sides, but that's the point of this sermon. I believe we are called to not pick or choose a side. God did not save me, redeem me, send His Son, and ransom my life so that I can then bleed blue or red. I am saved into a kingdom that is far greater than Democrat or Republican. And I can already tell there's some uncomfortable people in the house. Some of y'all are like, no, Jesus is Republican, and that's all there is to it. Okay? All right? My Jesus is Republican. See, I like to think about my Jesus in like a tuxedo t-shirt, you know? It's kind of formal, but he still likes to party, you know? Some of y'all are like that with your Jesus. You are praying to a Republican or a Democratic Jesus. I'm praying to the Son of God, who lives and reigns above all party lines. And so today I want to talk to you about a man, and anybody in here like history? Any history buffs in the room? Okay, because if you remember when we talked about Matthew, the tax collector, there wasn't a lot about Matthew, even though he wrote a book of the Bible. You would think there was, but there was very little on Matthew, so we went into the history and the context of what culture was like back then for a person, a Jewish person who decided to then become a tax collector. And we looked at the situation and the life of Matthew, not so much a story. And we are going to now do the same thing with Simon the Zealot. You see, Simon the Zealot belonged to a group of people who at this time had made it their mantra, their operatus, whatever it is. Y'all know that word. What's that word? Oh, there it is. Modus operandi. What is it again? Say it again. Okay, you just listen to her. Just listen to her. Modus operandi. That close? Bam. So they made it their goal to begin to cause upheaval, problems in the Roman Empire. They were going to buck the status quo, if you would. And he belonged to this group of people. And I want us to look at the fact that Jesus called this man to follow him. Because it's not just the type of people, it's not just what God called them to do, it's why God chose the men themselves. And I believe there is a very strategic reason why God chose a man who made it his life's purpose to cause political trouble to come and follow me. Because I believe that God has called us to come out of the mess, live above the mess, and be different. So I want to talk about this with you today, about Simon the Zealot. And I want to look at one thing, because I do believe we are to be a zealous people. Don't get me wrong. Because this is what the word zeal means, a great energy or enthusiasm for a specific cause. You see, there becomes the problem in our culture. As humanity, the culture, the climate, the political climate, the social climate, all of that can potentially force us to put our zeal, our energy for a cause, and make our cause become political instead of Christian, instead of Jesus. And we can quickly switch causes, and it will cause a problem. Because here's the reality. This is the whole reason for this service, for this sermon, for this topic. It's because very few people will base what kind of Christian you are on whether you believe with them in the same way of theology or what your opinion is of church. The world will never ask you those questions. But what they see in you and how they now picture Jesus or Christianity will be how you respond to the political culture we live in. All right, what's your stance? What's your stance on abortion? How do you feel about that? What is your stance on taxes? What is your stance on gay marriage? What is your stance on all of those things? And your response to a political question will become their perception of you and your Christian walk. Not, hey, do you believe Jesus was the Son of God? Hey, what is your Christian view? Because here's the reality. Having a biblical worldview should affect your worldview. I mean, that's a crazy thought, right? Like maybe you haven't really thought about that too much. Maybe because you're compartmentalizing Jesus. Say, my Christian worldview will affect the way I see the Bible, but my political view will be how I see through the lens of politics will be how I look at things over here. The reality is, this right here and here, man, this right here should be the lens through which you see everything. That's the truth. And see, here's what it is. Some of y'all probably came in and y'all are like, man, I really need some encouragement. I need some hope and some this. And I'll preach those. And man, we preach those up here. But here's the hard reality is if I don't then turn and preach to you things that will help you walk in the world and be different, not just a good feel-good goosebump message, but something that disciplines you and challenges you and gets you to train yourself in godliness. And all I'm giving you is just a good goosebump feeling every once in a while. And maybe y'all like that. But that won't help you. That won't help you when you get out in the real world. And these people who have no idea what this book says comes to you and questions you on other topics, and you just... So this is why I want to talk to you about this. Luke chapter 20, we'll go through the text in just a minute, but I want to set the table for you. We are at a scene where the Pharisees and a group called the Herodians have come to Jesus to ask him a question. Jesus had just spent some time teaching the parable of the wicked men and the tenants. And he had spent time teaching them this parable, and then they come to him and they want to seek, and we'll find in just a second, they're looking to try to trick Jesus. They've come to him with a political agenda. Listen to me, this is not a religious question. This is a politically driven question, and this is why we are in this story here at around 31 AD. Around 31 AD, 25 years prior, when Jesus was about 6 years old, Judea, the province of Judea, came under Roman occupation. And there was a governor by the name of Cornelius who decided that all of these people, now there's a lot more people. They just annexed, and this entire group of people are now under our rule, and he saw it as an opportunity to make more money. And they decided they were going to institute this tax called the poll tax, which is different than any other tax that is at this time. It's not an income tax. It's not a toll where you pay money to use a road. It's not an income tax where you pay taxes on your revenue that you bring in personally. It's none of that. What this is what this whole upheaval is right now, we're getting here to learn about, is that this man and this government has decided that if you're just breathing air inside of Roman territory, you have to pay a tax. And it was a flat tax. Everyone paid the same, poor, rich, everybody. It was a very oppressive tax. And there was a man by the name of Judas the Galilean. He was that day's, I guess if you wanted to reference him to somebody, that day's William Wallace. You know, he was somebody who took it on himself. I am going to fight against this. And he said, I won't pay this tax. I will not bow to this. He said this. He went into the temple in about 6 AD after this tax had been levied. And he did what Jesus did a couple chapters before. He cleansed the temple. He went in and just started cleansing the temple. And this is what he said after he cleansed the temple. He said this. He said, God will be our king, and we will bring in the kingdom of God. His people, this uprising, this rebellion, if you would, that this man was trying to lead against the Roman government. He said, we're going to bring in the kingdom of God. That's what we're going to do. Well, that was short-lived for Judas. They caught him and executed him. But out of that came this movement. This movement, this group, this generation of young people who said, we will fight the tyranny of Roman occupation. We will not stand for this. That movement was called the Zealots. And they begin to wreak havoc. Simon was one of these men. He was around the same age as Jesus. So he was around 6 years old when this all started. So he was brought up in this culture that we will fight against the government. And it was his life's mission. And then here comes Jesus. Isn't it crazy how that Jesus can completely change even what you've been raised in, what you've been steeped in, what you have made your life's mission, and it takes him coming on the scene and saying 2 words, and you move out of that path. And I think Jesus done it for a reason. Because I think he wanted those Jewish people who made it their goal to just cause political trouble. He was like, look, that's not the gospel. That's not what I want to teach you. You're fighting for a man-made kingdom. I'm coming to institute this kingdom that is not of this world. And if you make that what you're zealous about, listen to me. If you make the politics of this world what you're zealous about, you're missing the kingdom of God. You're missing the kingdom of God. See, I want to preference this because I'm telling you, I can see the looks. I am not telling you don't have a stance. I'm not telling you don't have convictions. I'm not telling you to not align yourself with a certain political group. But what I'm telling you is that is not the cause. That is not the cause for this church. That is not the cause for the church. But much like these people in Luke 20, we find ourselves in the same situation, making the same questions, asking the same questions of Jesus. What do you say about this? And so I want to walk with you through Luke chapter 20. And they have, starting at verse 20, but I want to read verse 19 to you to kind of set the stage for you. If you're in your Bibles, you're already there. If you don't have your Bibles, I'm sorry, that's your own fault. You should probably carry them. Verse 19 says, the scribes and the chief priests sought to lay hands on him at that very hour, for they perceived that he had told the parable against them. Remember the parable that I just told you about. But they feared the people. Verse 20, that's on the screen for you. So they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be sincere, that they may catch him in something he said. You know what I thought was really funny? Is I feel like that's the church. There's some people in the church that are a lot like that. They come in with some insincere motives. They come in with some motives behind them that they're not genuine. They're just there to try to maybe catch something that maybe validates them, justifies them, and maybe they could go home and say, hey, look, this is what he said, so I don't have nothing to do with that. I told you that Jesus mess was not of God. It's not real. I don't want nothing to do with it. So these people, I feel like, if we really be honest with you, and here's the reality, I too have sometimes been that person. Ooh. It's going to be real with you. Sometimes I go to church and I don't have sincere motives. But here's the reality. They tried. And I love how Jesus, and if we, remember a couple weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, I preached a message on insight. How that is a weapon that we very rarely use because we don't ever pray for insight into a situation. That we not only see the situation, but what's behind the situation. Jesus is really good about seeing what's behind the situation. He's able to look through the situation and say, hey, these people are here not for what they're really asking me, because they try to butter him up. No, listen, they try to butter Jesus up. Listen to him. They pretend to be sincere, that they may catch him in something he said so as to deliver him up to the authority and the jurisdiction of the governor. Listen to this. So they ask him, teacher, we know that you teach rightly. They're already laying it on thick with Jesus. Man, we know you teach the truth. Oh, you do it all the time. You are just such a good teacher. And you show no partiality. You don't even care. We know that about you. You're just so good at this. Now let me ask you a question. But truly teach the way of God. But we really want a godly answer in this one. Because, listen, they're wanting him to speak and align himself with one of these options. Listen to what they say. Is it lawful for us to give tribute to Caesar? Is it lawful for us to give tribute to Caesar or not? Oh, but he perceived their craftiness and said to them, show me a denarius. Whose likeness and inscription does it have? And they said, Caesar's. And he said to them, then render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. We're going to stop right there, and we'll save verse 26 for just a second. These people, and this is us today. Oh, my Lord, this is us today. These Pharisees and the Herodians, they are polar opposites. It's like Ann Coulter and Rachel Maddow. Anybody watch news? Okay. Some of y'all who don't watch news don't get that. Okay, let me leave something else. It's like Sean Hannity and Anderson Cooper, all right? They're there asking this question. Because everybody wants to be right. Both of these people are like, if we ask this question, he's going to align with one of us. And then when that happens, we're the right ones, okay? So let's just make it a question where Jesus has to give us an answer. Okay, teach us truth, God. You're God. We believe you to be a good teacher. Now be godly in this. Should I give Caesar my taxes? You see, I ask God the same thing. I really do. I think a lot of you people, especially if you're self-employed, even if you're not, you look at that paycheck and you're like, God, do I really have to give this to him? This is ridiculous. They're wanting Jesus, listen to me, they're wanting Jesus to align with them. Here's the reality. This isn't point one, this is just something you can just write down. We often are not looking for answers. We're looking for alignment. We are too often in our walk not really looking for answers. We're just trying to find where it aligns with us. Because if we were really looking for answers, there'd be a lot of times that it would knock us out of alignment. Right? Because here's the reality. In this time, in this culture, Jesus was perceived as dangerous and a little too loose for both sides. Okay? You got the liberals on one hand, right? The Herodians, they're a little liberal, okay? You got those on one hand who to them, they had no regard for the law. They thought it was too strict, and they thought Jesus was too strict. Don't preach on sin. Don't talk about that because this is as I want it to be. Don't do that. I will work out in my own life as my heart so sees, right? There's a guy by the name of Lester Crowley a long time ago that says, so be it whatever your heart desires, let it be that. As you will be the whole of the law. So they were uncomfortable around Jesus because he wasn't as loose as they were. Now, the Pharisees, those conservatives, those real strict conservatives who thought that you can attain morality by just simply achieving the law. Like as long as you did the law, you were doing good. That's all that was required. And here comes Jesus who teaches grace and mercy and forgiveness, and it has nothing to do with the law. I came to fulfill the law that it might be done with, that we will now live under grace. They were a little too uneasy around Jesus as well. And if the Bible says that he is the same yesterday, today, and forever, I find this to be true, that both liberals and conservatives should be a little uneasy when they begin to look at who Jesus was. I don't care if you come in here and you are fundamentally blue or you are fundamentally red. You look at the Bible and you look at Jesus, you will find things about him that will make you uncomfortable. Like this sermon. But all these people were doing was trying to find a way to get Jesus to align with him because this is the case. If he said this, you don't give Caesar. No, you don't pay that tax. It's oppressive. Well, then he would probably suffer the same fate a little quicker and be annexed and wouldn't have any kind of influence with any kind of Gentile. Oh, but if he said, give to Caesar, then the Jewish people would be like, you're a traitor to the kingdom of God. How can you preach about the kingdom of God and then now you're telling me to just be loyal to the Roman occupation who is oppressing us? Because Isaiah 60 and 61, you go back, and they knew what Isaiah 60 and 61 said, how that it talked about how the people would be free and the oppressed would go free and the poor would have money and there would be no, so they were looking for Jesus to be that guy. That he would be the guy who relieved them of the oppression. So if he was going to do that, would he not start a revolt? Would he not be like Judas the Galilean? Because just a few verses before that, Jesus did cleanse the temple. And now they're asking him, okay, I'm seeing some similarities here. Judas cleansed the temple too. And then he started the revolt. Is that what you're going to do? Okay, should we pay taxes? But see, that's not that Jesus didn't just answer them in a way to just kind of be obtuse or just kind of generic in his answer. No, when we really look at this, man, Jesus did such a beautiful thing of how he answered this to them. And so I want to walk with you through that, and I want to encourage you, if you're in here today, stop seeking alignment and start really asking Jesus for answers. Because if we're being honest, okay, I want everyone to look at me. If we're being honest, we live in a very, very politically driven world right now. Oh man, it is as high as it's ever been with contention and fighting and just this anger towards one another, the left and the right. And we got to remember, this is why it's so important, and this is why I'm preaching this. Again, it's not a red or blue matter. It is a Jesus matter. It is a Christian matter that we are not fighting against flesh and blood. Come on now, we ain't fighting against a Democratic or a Republican person. We are fighting to push back the walls of the enemy. We are fighting to push forward the gospel and the agenda of Jesus. So we have to be cautious and mindful of where our zeal is. What cause are we fighting for? Because both sides love to claim Jesus as their own. There was not too long ago, I think it was last year around early 2017 into mid-2017, we faced this decision. Do we raise the debt ceiling or do we not? How's that going to work? There was a Democratic congressman by the name of Charlie Rangel stood up and he said this, famously said this. He said, "What would Jesus do?" No lie. That's what he said in one of these things about raising the debt ceiling. His conclusion was Jesus would raise the debt ceiling. I would that you would owe no man nothing, that you may better serve Jesus. I don't know how that lines up, but they still, Jesus, what would he say? Let's raise the debt ceiling. There's an old rock song, I think it was by the group Everclear, that said, Jesus is a Democrat. Everyone loves to claim Jesus as their own. Tell you another little thing, Republicans definitely love to claim Jesus as their own. They love it. In fact, you could go to Facebook, and I would love for you to do this after church. Just go to Facebook, put it in the search bar, and search Republican Jesus. Man. Woo! I'm telling you, some of the things, the image is Jesus riding, and it says, repent and reload. Like, that's their Jesus. Not kidding. He's on a horse with a gun. And it says, repent and reload. Like, that's just, like, if you're not laughing, I offended you, and I'm not sorry. Because that is funny. I don't care who you are. I almost sent Cameron the picture and had him put it up on the screen, but I'm telling you, it's hilarious. But both sides love to pull Jesus into the fight when Jesus can align with their agenda. And even outside of politics, man, we love to pull Jesus in when Jesus aligns with our agenda. Right? That just makes it so much better. But Jesus, man, he didn't align with either of their agendas. Like these Pharisees who were by the law Jewish, fighting for Jewish culture and fighting for Jewish beliefs. And here's Jesus, a Jew. And then you have on the other side these Herodians who were Roman loyalists, and they're saying this. And you would think the answer would be simple. I'm Jewish. I'm the king of the Jews. I'm going to align myself with these people. But Jesus didn't take that route. Jesus did not take that route. And I love this answer that he gives. Verse 24, his response. I want to say this before we go into the next part. When we begin to relegate Jesus to a political answer, we dismiss his main role in humanity, which is the lover of all mankind. When we relegate him to a political response, we dismiss his primary role. Jesus was never a political response. He was the ultimate answer. His response was so amazing. And we're going to pay specific attention to how they asked the question and how Jesus answered the question. The answer was posed to him. Is it lawful for us to give tribute to Caesar or not? Should we give tribute to Caesar? I want to focus on that word tribute. You see, that word tribute is a little different than the way Jesus answers. That word tribute can be changed and seen in the same word picture as praise. Is it lawful for us to give praise to Caesar by giving him what he asked? Because here is the reality. This is a beautiful reality. That what you give to someone speaks a lot to what the motive is behind it. Right? We give Jesus our praise. We give that to him because he's worthy of that. These men and women at the time were like, they saw this as if I give him this, I'm telling them that I'm okay with this. That I am giving I am condoning what this is, and I am supporting what this is. And every time they gave that money, every time they gave that denarius, it reminded them that I'm still oppressed. I'm still under the occupation of the Romans. I am not free. I am poor. And it reminded them, like, is it okay for us to continually do this? Giving tribute to this tyrannical dictator. Jesus changes it on them real fast. He says, hey, show me one of them denarius. Just show it to me. Pull it out of your pocket. I can imagine all these people like reaching in their pockets, going to pull one out. He says, what's on that thing? Whose image is on that? Oh, see, now we're going to start understanding. Whose image is on that? He said, Caesar. He said, okay. Now render to Caesar what is Caesar's. And to God what is God's. Look at this word render with me. He changes it. He's not saying pay tribute. Render more lines with this. Pay back. Give what is deserved. Right? Give back what is deserved. Well, what does this tyrant deserve? Well, he is the government. He is the ruler. He is the one who the government is operating through. See, here's the thing. Government is established and ordained by God. That we can find scripture, and I'll walk you through that if you question that. But we can find it. He says, just give back what he deserves. But also give God what he deserves. See, listen to me. Oh, this is so beautiful. Whose image is on that coin? Give back to him what his image is on. Throw up Genesis for me. Throw up Genesis. See, Jesus is aligning your priorities here. Jesus is aligning your calls because they're getting caught up in the calls of politics. And Jesus is saying, hey, let me switch your perspective here for just a second. I want you to give what Caesar's image is on. And I want you to remember to give me what I deserve too. Render to me what's mine. What is his? Then God said, let us make man in our image. What holds the image of God? You. He said, pull that coin out of your pocket. All right, here you go. Who's on that coin? That's Caesar. All right, let's learn this. Go ahead and give that to him. Now, whose image? Who's on you? Like, where is my image at? Well, hey, let me go back to Genesis. Then God said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let them that have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds in the heavens and over livestock and over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his image, and in the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them. We hold the image of God. He says, hey, let me shift this whole perspective for you and get you to understand what the cause is. What is the cause? Why are we here? Look, you're not going to get out of occupying and functioning in society in a political way. Somehow, some way, you're going to have that happen. But hey, let's understand what is required of you. It is required of you to do that, but don't make that your cause. Don't give to someone your allegiance because your allegiance is mine. Man, but we get so twisted up. We get so twisted up in this political driven world that we get confused. I got to show this party my allegiance. No, you show Jesus your allegiance. No. If I'm going to be one way, I got to be this one way all the way. No, don't do that. Because listen, verse 26, throw up verse 26 of Luke chapter 20. And they were not able in the presence of the people to catch him in what he said. But marveling at his answer, they became silent. Both sides, both extremes, could not find him aligning with them because he threw a wrench in their plans. Hey, look, dude, are you blue or are you red, Jesus? I'm Jesus. Okay, I'm Jesus. And let me tell you something, world. Church, we are called to be above party lines. We are called to be the love, the hands, the feet, the heart of Jesus everywhere we go. Because here is the reality. Cody, come here. Matt, come here. Man, I hope y'all get this with me. I don't need to scoot this on over. Can you come grab this for me? Just take it down for just a minute. Sit it right there. Just a second. He's a man. I didn't mean to call you out like that. Everybody give him a hand clap. That's really good. You stand over here. So here is where we should live, right? We live in this politically driven world. Let's just go red, blue. I don't care. I don't know what you are, but we ain't even worried about it. Repent, reload. Repent, reload. That's all right. Red, blue, right? So we have this opportunity that Jesus had in this moment. And we live in a world where we have this opportunity every day at such a heightened level that people are coming to you. Where do you stand? And they're going to use that to determine how they see Jesus and where he stands. This is why it's important. Red, blue, they're fighting. This is where we come in. They're asking me, where do I believe? Hey, come here, guys. Come here. And we are called to be just like Jesus. Linking arms, red and blue, be the middle. Look, I don't know what's going on, but I tell you that Jesus loves both of you. That there was a man who died on a cross thousands of years ago that you would be saved and redeemed above any of this nonsense that we're fighting of. But this is what we believe. In America, we have been presented two extremes. Two extremes. And it just keeps getting worse. We aren't getting closer together. The right and the left are getting further apart. And they just keep pull. Don't do too hard, okay? I'm still not strong, okay? But they start to pull one another away. And what we trick ourselves and what the enemy tricks us into is start to pull a little bit. Just keep some tension. As we begin to believe, as it gets harder, oh, please follow me. As it gets harder to hold the middle ground and be the gap person, you're like, okay, I gotta choose. All right, let's just do this. He's closer. I believe a little bit more like he does. I believe a little bit more like he does, and he aligns with me, and I believe I'm comfortable in this spot, but we feel like we got to decide. But what happens is when they pull and you decide, you divide. Immediately there's a division. And we are not to divide. We are to come alongside, hold the middle ground, because there was a time in history where humanity deserved death, hell, and the grave, and there was a decision that needed to be made. Will someone stand in the gap? Will someone link arms with both heaven and humanity and hang there and hold it and say, hey, I'm just here to be the gap person. You may feel like you have to choose. And you may feel like you need to choose, and you're right in your choosing. But I'm telling you, we are called to live in the tension between the truth and grace at all times. It doesn't matter red or blue. You are a child of God, not a color. Thank you, guys. See, it's just a very often used tactic of the enemy. That he will try to, as they did Jesus in this story, to push him into a corner and say, make a choice, Jesus. Us or them. Us or them. Us or them. I mean, I can't even tell you. I know we live in a high, politically driven world, but this was a very contentious time politically in history. It was very contentious. And here's the glory. Here's such a beautiful part. See, in this story, all the disciples are around him, including Simon, right? Simon, the one who was a zealot, who would have very quickly aligned himself with the other part. He's standing in the background watching Jesus handle this. And I just think in my head, he's standing in the back as these questions are coming. And he's like, man, I could have easily been there. I could have easily been there. In fact, I get to sit here and I get to watch this man named Jesus in the way he responded. You see, here's what's really cool. I love this part. On that denarius too, it just wasn't just the face of Caesar. It had these 3 inscriptions. Listen to, oh, it's so good. King, Son of God, High Priest. Oh man, please finish this with me and we'll be done. Here stands, listen. Here stands the Son of God, the living, breathing Son of God. And they're asking him to pick a side politically. And he says, show me the coin and what's it say? Well, it's got Caesar's face on it. What else does it say? It says King, Son of God, High Priest. And they don't even realize that they're talking to the King, the Son of God, the High Priest. Jesus at that moment could have got so angry and said, who does this guy think he is? He don't know who I am. See Jesus and God and all of his sovereignty and all of his power, why didn't he come in the form of a king where he could legislate his will into law? Why didn't he do it? He could have chose any path, any lineage, any heritage, anything from the beginning of time. And it would have been a lot easier for Jesus if he'd have come in the line of a lot of kings and stood in a place where he could legislate law and demand that people do what he says and demand that people follow after his will. But listen to me. Religion legislated is not love. And Jesus knew that. In order for the gospel to be what the gospel is, it cannot be legislated. It has to be willfully and choice made by humanity that I love this Jesus and I love him more than my life and I love him more than my party. I'm following him because he's the answer, not just an alignment. Man, I can imagine Jesus had to ask somebody. You ever thought, why didn't he pull one from his pocket? Because he didn't have a lot of money. He came from a lowly carpenter. And his people, they just annexed him. They didn't want him. He said he came to his people and they received him not. And here stands the gap person. Here stands the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the rightful Son of God, the high priest who is above everybody, name above every name, the name at which every tongue will bow, every tongue will confess and every knee will bow. That's the man who is looking at a coin where another man is claiming to be that, and he still doesn't get angry. He still says, hey, give to this man what is his, but remember what my image is on. Some of y'all need to be reminded of what his image is on. It ain't on politics, it's on you. It ain't on the Democratic Party, and it ain't on the Republican Party. It ain't on the Tea Party, and it ain't on the liberals. It is on you. And so I just preached this message in hopes that we would come to understand that we are to live above the party lines. And say, if you come at me to ask me and get me to choose a corner, I choose Jesus all day. I choose Jesus all day. Love people regardless of whether they believe exactly like you or not. The Bible doesn't say love your red brothers, love your blue brothers. No, it says love your brothers. And he also said love your enemy. That's just so countercultural. So countercultural. So yeah, this isn't some get up at your seat, shout me down. Not that y'all do a lot of that anyways, but it's not one of those. But I hope, and I pray that the next time you're in a conversation, the next time you flippantly scrolling through Facebook, and here comes a picture of Jesus holding an AK-47, saying Jesus is the founding member of the NRA. I don't know what you're going to find. I don't know what you're going to find, but just remember that whether you agree or you don't agree, that person is a soul. And politics will never reach them. Even if you have the best answer to every political question, that will never reach a soul for Jesus. The love and the gospel is the only thing that will do that. So would you stand? This may have been an awkward message for some. But I believe that we are a pretty diverse church. You have a pastor that stands on the stage and has a sleeve, so I would agree that we are a pretty diverse church. But I also believe that we can be a church who accepts people, loves on people right where they are. We don't anthem any party, we don't anthem any candidate. We anthem the love and the renown of Jesus Christ. That's us. So I hope this message challenges you. Challenges you to not feel like you're backed into a corner and you have to choose between extremes. But you become more willing to stand in the middle and not choose a side and divide, but hold together that which the enemy is trying so desperately to tear apart. Let's pray. God, we love you. Oh, we thank you so much for who you are. Thank you for giving us so many examples of how to live in a world like we live in. You didn't just give us sayings and quotes, and God, you give us real life examples of how to answer real life questions. And so, God, today I ask that we leave here a church willing to stand in the middle. Put our zeal in the right place. Put our zeal in the right place. David said in Psalm 69:9, he said that zeal for your house has consumed me. God, let that be our cause, the cause for the house of God. And let that be our anthem. God, we love you, and we thank you for who you are and how you so graciously teach us to be men and women of God above all else. We love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks again for listening to this sermon. And if you'd like to keep up with us, you could do so by going to our Facebook page or our Instagram, or feel free to go to our website at gracemeadows.cc, or we would love for you to come and worship with us at 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings.